Self-betrayal and self-sabotage is one of the reasons why most people lose. It's one of the reasons why most of you fail and can't seem to get a grip. Now, this is cause for your own self. Most people don't understand that it's self-betrayal and self-sabotage. They really truly think that it's somebody else, but that's the wrong way to think. Because if your self is not conquered, you can't conquer the enemy. Most people haven't got to the level to be able to sit there and say, like I can, oh, the enemy has done this. Most people haven't even got to that level. They're still in the inner process. They're still in the inner map of going against their self. Most people own mind fight against them. Most people own mind betray them. I refuse to have a psyche. I refuse to have a consciousness that is not on my side. I refuse to live that way. So when you're walking through earth, when you're walking through life, you need to understand that the number one reason why most people lose is truly because of their own self. They can't force themselves to work when they don't want to work. They can't force themselves to feel good. They can't force themselves to not click on Pornhub. They can't force themselves to not click on certain websites. They can't force themselves to blink and cure their brain, stop certain habits. Most of their betrayal is self. But once you master yourself, you start to overcome the limitations of yourself. And really, truly, you need to understand that self betrayal was instilled into you. Certain thoughts you have about yourself were truly given to you from the enemy. Growing up in school, growing up in all these different areas of life, we were given thoughts and beliefs which weren't ours. This is why I talk a lot about recreating yourself. And in fact, I have a free video on here called Creating the Version of You, the Future Version of You. But you need to recreate yourself because the version of you that has been trapped and warped by the world is a version of you that gives into self-sabotage and self-betrayal, down talking his own self, doubting his own self, doubting his own skills. That version of you need to be defeated. You need to destroy that version of you and you need to recreate a new one. Because once you recreate a new one, you're no longer bound to the limitations of your own self. Even when those same thoughts appear, you'll sit and say, that's not true. Even when those same thoughts appear, oh, when the doubt starts to creep in, you start to laugh at it. That's how you operate at a certain echelon. See, most people think thoughts and get trapped into thoughts which were given to them by the enemy. Most people believe things which were given to them by the enemy. These different thoughts about doubting yourself and doubting your skills or doubting if you can do it, it came from the enemy. And I can bring up real life experiences, having conversations with people. They were telling me that somebody told them something, but they kept saying they. I said they told me that I couldn't do it. I said they, who was they? And they just said they. And it showed me that a lot of people don't even know where these thoughts and beliefs came from. They can't point back to a certain experience in childhood or a certain experience of where they got these thoughts and ideals from. So self-betrayal and self-sabotage is something you need to completely get rid of. Now, how do you get rid of it? Well, first things first, you need to do things which are hard. You need to do things which you more normally wouldn't do. You need to push through the pain when you're exercising, go in the extra rep. You need to talk to that woman if you don't want to talk to that woman. When your mind is trying to convince you of something, you need to go against it. When your mind is talking about fear, oh, don't do that because it's a bunch of fear involved. You need to do it anyway. That is how you start to rise above the self limitations. Self limitations are only limitations if you give power to it. In fact, any self limitation, this I want you to understand. Everybody has these thoughts. I'm gonna tell you why. Because after a certain echelon, you start to describe these thoughts as thoughts from the enemy. So when these thoughts come, which nobody can avoid it, even the Zen masters of the world, you can't avoid these thoughts because these thoughts starts to get sent by the enemy for you to defeat. You can extract power from the thoughts. So anytime any self-doubt or self-limitation come, I just laugh. I absorb it of his power. Or I sit and say, that just means I'm getting closer. When the enemy starts to creep inside of your mind, telling you you can't do something, You need to sit and say, well, that means I can do it. Remember, the enemy is the father of lies. And what the enemy does is lie to your mind. It will tell you you can't do it. It will tell you can't make it. It will tell you that you're less than what you are. And you need to blink and clear your brain. You need to understand that you have control over your own mind. But if you don't control your mind, then you're just a feather in the wind of life with zero control. You're just going through life with zero control. If you don't control your mind, you're just getting blew around here, blew around there. You're like Forrest Gump, the little leaf falling at the beginning of the movie, getting pushed around everywhere. So you need to understand that unless you control your mind, and you understand that you have the power to control your mind and control your thoughts, you can consciously create thoughts of power. But it seems like a lot of people don't. You can consciously create yourself and sit and say, I am powerful, I am strong, I can do anything that I want to do in life. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. That's something I've been telling myself for years. And every year I get more stronger, more powerful, more braver than ever before. Because the way that you talk to yourself can open up new realities or it can sink you down into your same reality. So, firstly, you need to change the way that you talk to yourself. The way that you talk to yourself will change the experience of what you experience in reality. And this reality is truly moldable, and reality is truly like a video game. Whatever inputs you input into this reality, you get the outputs of it. Whatever level you're playing on in the video game, you get the results of that level. You get the rewards. You get high rewards at the higher levels you climb. So you need to see reality that way. You need to understand that your mind is a mechanism. If you, most of you, I want you to take this analogy. Most of you clean your room and clean your house every day or every other day, whenever you clean it. And in fact, some of you don't clean it at all. And it shows how your mind is. But we can clean our external homes, but we can't clean our mental homes. We need to question why. You can clean your room at home and clean your dishes and all of these things, but you don't clean the most important mechanism, your mind. Because your mind enables you to move through reality in the most powerful way possible. If you ask every hero in history, if you ask anybody now, any billionaire, anybody on the face of the planet of the earth today, how did they get to where they wanted to be? They will say their mind. All of this ties into success because I want you to understand the truth that I tell you truth so that you can use truth to be successful. I don't want you to go out in the endless search of vanity of truth and not be successful in this world. I want you to be successful, but also I want you to be able to be successful in the afterlife as well. That's why you need to learn about Jesus Christ and all of these different things. But I'm not a preacher. That's why you have preachers for that. But you need to understand that I want you to be successful in this world. I want you to use the truths that I say to your advantage to use it. Now, your mind is a mechanism. Your mind can be renewed. Your mind can be restored. If you start to speak to yourself differently, most of you sit and complain. Complaining don't fix objects. Complaining don't fix anything. When has complaints ever fixed anything besides taking action? When has complaints ever fixed anything? It has never. So complaining about things as opposed to fixing them is garbage. And that is where self-betrayal is being used. Self-betrayal is complaining about something but never fixing it. As a man, it is your duty to stop complaining. Complaining is for women. Men fix problems. We fix things. So instead of complaining about the said task, do it. Do it. Take your analysis after it. Use it to become better and stronger. That is exactly how you need to operate. You need to understand that every bad thing that has happened to you is all for your good, your better benefit. A lot of the self-betrayal lies when these bad things happen. Most people sit and say, oh, this bad thing has happened to me. I say good. Oh, what do you mean good? Good. You now have been given the chemical compound position to create yourself into an orgone of power. God is trying to create you when the bad things happen. It's just a learning lesson. Now you start to float amidst the chaos and you sit in the middle of the chaos and say, peace be upon you. This is how you need to use your brain. Every bad thing that has happened to you is a learning lesson if you can use it correctly. And every bad thing that has happened to you is not bad thing. It depends on how you look for it. It depends on what you're looking for. You can learn lessons in everyday life to defeat self-betrayal. You need to sit around and analyze and sit and say, where am I self betraying myself? Am I skipping the workouts of which I need to skip? Am I doom scrolling when I know I need to train? Am I doom scrolling when I know I need to be working? These are the questions I even ask myself, the questions that we need to ask ourselves all the time. Because as humans, we need to break out of the atmosphere. Because sometimes we get in these modes of distraction. We get in these modes when life is comfortable. We get in these modes of distractions and all of these things, but we need to be on. We need to sit around and say, okay, I've been a little too distracted. I've been doing this too much. I need to self-analyze and I need to blink and cure my brain. If you feel like you can't focus on task, if you feel like you're being self-betrayed, you need to blink and cure your brain. If you feel like you can't focus on the task long enough to finish the task at hand, you need to blink and cure your brain. You need to understand that everything in reality is made for you. You need to use your brain. Everything in reality is made for you if you blink and cure your brain. All of it. Use your brain for the powerful mechanism that it is. You need to use it. Use your brain for the powerful mechanism as it is, because that is the only thing you can control. You can be thinking of blue and then you can switch and immediately think of red. So don't let the defeating thoughts take you captive. You need to take every thought captive. You have the power to think a thought inside of your brain. I think this is where people fail, and I'm ending it right here. But this is the last mechanism where people fail. They don't consciously create or think thoughts. They don't consciously tell themselves thoughts. I will sit here and tell myself certain things to make myself believe it. So that is where you get out of the the self-defeating mechanisms of self-betrayal and self-sabotage, and you start to move in a way of power. Now, if you understand the truths of my message, you need to join the free telegram, t.me/prime operations. That is the winner circle, and that is where we'll be gathering. If you trust me in the future, right now, yes, it's for free, but if you trust me in the future, there'll be something paid coming along which will help free you from all these different mechanisms of life which trying to keep you weak. Because that is how the matrix works. That is how the enemy works. That is how the hive mind works. They want you to be they want you to be self-defeating. Because if you're self-defeating, you're easily to be controlled. I don't want that for you. I want you to be powerful, because if you're powerful, we can work together. So join the free telegram, t.me/prime operations, or the link is in the description. You know where to find me. I will see most of you there.